Hi everyone, this is my pool plan video in DFFOO global version of the game in the upcoming arc featuring Noel as a synergy character. You can also refer to the cropped infographic on the left hand side, which is derived from Jakematt's global forecast to see which events these are, and specifically this will be Divine Ifrit coming up very soon, Queen's Lost chapters, and Llyud's event. As always, quick introduction about what the purpose of this video is. It's really sharing my thoughts and opinions on upcoming banners and how I make my plans whether or not to pull or skip certain characters. As a big disclaimer, I don't actually play the JP version of the game, so my opinion is formed basically on what I find out about the upcoming characters and their kits during my research. And a lot of my decision making also factors in which characters I've already built in my roster and how my current gem and ticket stash is looking. It may or may not be ideal for the next person because everyone is always a little bit different here in terms of resource and playstyle. There's really no right or wrong answer or right or wrong approach when it comes to pulling, and there's always multiple ways to make it work, even if you're a free-to-play player. My recommendation is always to do your own research so that you can make the best informed decision as to how you spend your gems and tickets in the game. There's many factors that can influence someone's decision. Of course, the gems and ticket stash that you have, the roles that you need to fulfill in your roster, and of course who your favorite Final Fantasy characters are. Before moving on, just a quick recap about how I did during Machina's LDBT arc. It was quite a good arc for me, but that's mainly because I skipped most of the banners. After 4 banners during the arc, I actually skipped 3 of them and only pulled during Snow's LD banner. So during Machina's and Shantoto's banner, I skipped both of them, and that's mainly because I already had Machina fully built, just minus his BT weapon of course. So I don't really need to pull on that banner, and I wasn't terribly interested in Pain because I felt that I was very comfortable with the amount of support characters that I recently pulled. And we also have Llyud coming up as well during Noel's arc. I did pull for Snow, and that's mainly because I wanted to have the synergy character during his event, and I can also then use Snow during the Chaos Challenge during Ursula's event. Luckily, it didn't take me too much. I just had to do the free multi plus 3 more multi pulls after that, so I spent a total of 15,000 gems before I scored Snow's LD weapon. I used gems mainly because I also didn't have Lion's weapon coming into the event, and unluckily I didn't snag her LD there, but that's okay, I'll leave for another day. When it came to Ursula's event, I was on the fence because by that point I still did not score Machina's BT weapon yet, but at the end of the day I just decided to do the free pull and skip the banner, and I actually just spent the 50 burst tokens on scoring Machina's burst weapon. So considering the fact that the game developers were actually quite generous during the New Year's event, I've actually managed to replenish my ticket stash, and I'm sitting, I believe, right around 800 tickets or so at the start of Noel's arc coming up. Okay, so the first event coming up will be the Divine Ifrit event, where you can level your Ifrit summon to level 40, and as always there's going to be 2 banners on this event. The first featuring the release of Noel's burst weapon and a rerun of Noel's LD, and Sid's LD weapon will be newly released here as well. Both Noel and Sid will also be getting their C90 upgrade, and on the second banner we have a rerun of Onion Knight up to his burst weapon, and we also have a rerun of Sarah for LD. Both Onion Knight and Sarah will be getting reworks, and both of these characters will also be getting their C90 as well. My plan here is to use gems on the banner featuring Noel and Sid. I actually skipped Noel LD the first time it came around, so this is quite a good banner for me. I can potentially score both of their LDs together and further cement my DPS characters in my roster. I am planning to skip the second banner because I already have all the weapons there except Onion Knight's burst weapon, and I don't really have any interest in Onion Knight's burst weapon anyway, so that's an easy skip for me. Overall, in terms of characters, Noel and Sid Highwind are two very strong DPS, especially since we are just entering into the C90 era. If you skipped greening Machina during his time in the last arc, Noel is another fantastic option for your BT ingots as well as a damage dealer. His C90 upgrade makes his EX hit extremely hard while ignoring enemies' defense as well, and in his kit, Noel is also a great rebreaker as well as having a Wind Elemental in his kit. Sid Highwind S1 and S2 still I feel is a little bit underpowered, but his C90 and his LD makes his EX and LD hits extremely hard, and his new LD weapon also provides him a special off-turn attack that will be triggered once every 3 attacks that he does. It follows a stacking buff mechanic that he has, and when his overhead reaches 3 stacks, it lets off a massive AoE damage that, from what I've heard, can deal upwards of 1 million damage when it hits. On the other banner, Sarah is actually a pretty decent support character, especially with her rework and her C90. So if you feel you are lacking in supports now and you're a fairly new player, Sarah is actually quite a decent pickup as well. Unfortunately though, her banner mate is Onion Knight, and really Onion Knight is pretty lackluster in terms of his BT and his rework. I feel he's sort of like in the same boat as Shantoto in the sense that while he can work in Lufenia Plus, as with all other characters who receive their rework and BT Plus, the question is, why would you want to invest valuable and scarce BT ingots on Onion Knight when you can have potentially more deserving BT units that can do more or bring more to the table than him. Next up, coming up, we have Queen's Lost Chapters, featuring a rerun of Queen up to her LD, and Cater with a newly featured LD weapon. Both Queen and Cater will also be receiving the C90 upgrade. On Queen's part, her kit remains largely the same. Of course, with her C90 upgrade, her EX will be harder hitting as well, and she didn't really need a lot of upgrades anyway, given that her kit is actually pretty decent overall already as a support unit. Cater, on the other hand, was pretty outdated up to the point of this event, and she does receive quite a massive boost on this event. Her C90 on one hand boosts her trap damage significantly to the point that it does quite a hefty amount of damage, and her LD now provides her a new LD debuff that is framed and acts in the same way as Setza's Freeze Joker, except that it also has an inbuilt Brave Damage Taken Up effect, so it's really superior to Setza's Freeze Joker in every way. This can be very valuable because her LD Call can also inflict her LD debuff, so this gives you another option of that valuable debuff beyond Setza's standard Freeze Joker effect. I actually don't have Queen's gear, I skipped her the first time around, and while I have Cater fully built up to her EX, I actually plan to skip this banner. The main reason, I guess, is for one thing, I don't feel that I need Queen as a support character. I already have Sarah fully built, and she will receive her C90 upgrade anyway this time around. And on top of that, I also have pulled on quite a lot of recent support units such as Lena, Selfie, Maria, and we also have a very strong support unit in Llyud coming up, and I am actually more interested in Llyud compared to Queen. Cater is actually still pretty decent overall, while she still maintains her dodge utility in her kit and her trap dealing loads of damage with a C90 upgrade, and now being able to land the Brave Freeze debuff. On top of that, her charge shot and white shot also gets a massive upgrade, in the sense where if you don't use them for one turn, the next turn where you use them, there will be a more powerful version, which is quite good because it gives her a much needed boost to her longevity as well. That being said, the main reason why I'm not pulling for her is mainly because she doesn't fit my playstyle preference. Kater's kit is geared in a sense where you are actually expecting the enemies to take turns. Hence, this is where her evasion comes in, and this is where her LD Brave Freeze debuff comes in, as well as of course her traps triggering and dealing damage. I'm more a fan of no boss turn or very few boss turn runs, and if I'm doing those runs, then there's very little need to bring Kater along because she won't really shine if you're not gonna set off her traps or make full use of her evasion and counter or her Brave Freeze debuff from her LD. Next up, at the end of this arc, we have Llyud's event featuring the release of a new character named Llyud, and this is one of the characters that I'm quite interested in. Llyud is a support character featuring healing in his kit as well as massive party support auras, and while this may not be unique, what I find very interesting in his kit is his utility to charge both his EX and his party members' EX as well, which is quite useful considering that we are now entering into an era where the C90 upgrade makes everyone's EX hits for extremely big amounts of damage. So having a character in your party that provides good support auras and can also help charge everyone's EX to full instantaneously can be very handy in this era. Of particular interest also, if you did pick up Noel, where a large part of his damage will come from his EX, Llyud makes a very good partner for Noel because Llyud can actually charge Noel's EX along the way as well. Zell also makes a return with his LD here, and Zell himself will also get a C90 upgrade, which should boost his EX damage as well. My plans here is to use tickets aiming for Llyud's LD. I actually don't have Zell's LD as well, but I will treat Zell as a bonus here. If I get his LD along the way, then it's good, but my main prize is to try to score Llyud's LD. If I get his LD early, I will actually just token the rest of Llyud's gear, including his EX if I did not manage to get it. Now, with all that being said and done, the most common questions people have most of the time is, if my resources are quite limited in terms of gems, tickets or ingots to upgrade everyone's armor or weapon, which characters should I focus on? And there's really no right answer to that because again, a large part of it depends on your playstyle and what roles that you need to fulfill in your roster, and I can't emphasize that enough, hence the big disclaimer at the bottom of the slide. My recommendation is always to look at what sort of roles you need more at the current point in time, whether be it DPS or tank or support character and such, and prioritize those units more so than others. So what I've done is to categorize the newly released LDs or characters receiving their reworks or C90 into 3 categories: good value, role fulfillment, and consolation prizes. A large part of this again is based on my opinion and my playstyle, so it may not be accurate or may not be relevant to you or your playstyle, so do take it with a grain of salt. So first off, we have the good value category, and the characters that I place here typically I feel would provide good value for you and your roster regardless of who else you've already built up, mainly due to the sheer power of either their damage or their versatility or utility. So this time I have 2 characters here, which is Llyud and Noel. I put Llyud here mainly because of his utility of fast charging everyone's EX to full, which is kinda unique. We do of course have Selfie with her aura buff that helps everyone's EX charge a little bit more quickly, but Llyud actually has the ability to firstly charge his own EX meter to full, and secondly charge everyone else's EX meters to full. I believe there are also some other characters who can do this, such as Ashe, but it is quite a rare utility to have, and being now an up-to-date support in the C90 era where EXs become much more relevant than they were before, having him in the party I think brings a lot of value. Noel I put here, and this can be debatable depending on who you have built up as your green character. If you have Machina built up, I feel there's really not a lot of need to have Noel built. But if you are in need, or if you are interested in getting a BT plus 3/3 green character with powerful DPS, then Noel is actually quite a good pickup in that regards. Next up is the role fulfillment category. So characters that I place here are quite good, but there are usually other alternative options that you can have, so their value really depends a lot on who else you already have built in your roster. And if you have other similarly built characters, then one option you can consider is to potentially skip these characters, because you can just use the other characters in their place in your party instead. So there are two characters here, the first being Sarah and the second being Sid Highwind. Sarah I placed here mainly because I feel that at this point in the game she isn't terribly unique in her kit. During her days in GL where she received her early LD, she does provide very strong battery and a very important HP damage up debuff. Nowadays that kind of effect, whether be it in a debuff or buff, is fairly common and almost every support character has it. So Sarah doesn't stand out from that perspective much any longer. She does provide some nice debuffs and her auras are still very relevant in today's meta, so by no means she is bad. But if you have already many other support characters built up, such as in my situation, then you can potentially consider skipping Sarah altogether. If you are fairly new and you want a strong support character besides Llyud, then definitely she is a great pickup. Coming to Sid Highwind, he can have potential bursty damage in his LD and EX, but we are in a time where we have quite a lot of options for DPS characters already. The good thing about Sid, of course, is that he doesn't need PT ingot investment, so if you're looking for an LD only DPS character to fulfill your roster or complement your roster, then Sid Highwind is a great pickup. But if you feel fairly comfortable, especially if you have certain BT plus characters built already, such as Machina, Jacked, or even Noel coming to this event, then really you can consider just skipping Sid Highwind altogether. Finally, we have the consolation prize category, and no disrespect to the characters placed here. Again, any newly released character or newly reworked character are viable in endgame, but of course we have to make certain decisions whether or not to pull or skip certain characters unless you have unlimited resources. And usually the characters I place here are placed here mainly because there are other characters just recently released or released at around the same time that they are, that I feel can potentially provide more value than these characters. So there's three characters I placed here. The first is Kader, and Kader was the character that I was really thinking hard about it. You can actually justify putting her in one of the other two categories depending on how much you like her playstyle. But like I said before, really I feel that at this point in the game we are sort of in a meta where the less turns you provide the bosses, generally the better it is, because of how devastating the boss's attack can be. On top of that, there are also nowadays many characters who can provide delay or turn delete in their kit, as well as providing huge bursty damage, such as the recently released Machina, that makes no boss turn runs more and more doable in the current and near future meta. So with that said, you can opt to go no boss turns in many of your runs and make do without Kader. Of course, if that's not your preference and you prefer to have runs where you allow boss to take turns and you're looking for a DPS character to complement those runs, then Kader is actually very good character there. In fact, she's probably one of the best coming up in that regards, because she protects your party from her Brace Freeze debuff. She can counter, and her traps deal a load of damage as well. The other two characters here I feel is a little bit more clear cut. I know there are fans of Queen and people would probably disagree with me on that, but really if I consider that we have Llyud and Sarah in this arc, personally I think I would probably be using either Llyud or Sarah or both of them much more often than Queen. So the question I ask myself is, why do I have to pull for her? And even if I did have her LD already, would I be using Queen all that much, other than if I'm a fan of her character and I want to use her? But from a practical perspective, I would probably be using Llyud as a support character much more often, at least in the near future. With Onion Knight, like I said before, unfortunately for our Onion Knight, as a BT Plus character, you really want someone worthwhile to invest your BT ingots in, because BT ingots are extremely rare. So why Onion Knight when you can just choose one of the other BT Plus characters who can probably give you more returns for your investment? In summary, I will be jamming Noel and Sid LD when their banner debuts. I will be skipping Onion Knight's banner, mainly because I already have Sarah fully built and I don't have interest in Onion Knight. I will be skipping Queen and Kater's banner, and that's partly because I want to have a banner where I can skip and save my resources this arc. And out of all the banners, I think Queen and Kater is probably the least painful, at least for me. And lastly, I will be planning to use tickets for Llyud's LD. I think Llyud has a very interesting kit, and I'm particularly interested in his utility to fast charge everyone's EX. And that's the end of this pool plan video. As always, I hope the content has been informative and enjoyable. And if you do like the content, please leave a like, comment or subscribe. It really helps a lot. Till then, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!